Hey everyone, before we start the show, I just want to get some plugs out of the way. If you enjoy this podcast and you're into wrestling, check out the Nerds and Marks podcast or Marty and Sarah Love Wrestling. If you're not getting your fill on movie and entertainment discussion, then check out the Entertainment Buffet podcast. If you want to dive into the world of video games, I highly recommend the Darkcast by my friends over at darkstation.com. Listen to them cover important topics and interview men and women from all over the industry. Thanks for listening and enjoy the show. Hello everyone, and welcome to Shelved. I am your host, Jeremy Meyer. Now it's been a while since I've uploaded an episode, and we're gonna get into that. But just want to let you know that content is coming. In fact, starting this week, I have an episode already recorded, scheduled to release on Friday, with a guest, our first guest in a while. And I'm reading scripts for the next 2 weeks, which I'm already almost done with both of them, which are going to be some solo episodes. Just a couple of movies that I've been dying to talk about that nobody else has really been interested in. But things are coming back. Consider this our soft little relaunch after a rocky month, I would say. So why don't we get into it? So I had to take some time off because of a medical emergency. My wife suffered a seizure, which is something that has never happened before. Nothing that I've ever been around before. I've never seen one. It happened. We were going to bed one night, and all of a sudden she just started having a seizure. So that led to us being in the emergency room and having to do a lot of follow-up appointments and stuff to see if, does she suddenly have epilepsy and stuff, which it doesn't look like she does. It just looks like it was a kind of a freak occurrence due to some lack of sleep. She hadn't had any sleep and stuff like that. And just like a lot of factors that kind of combined into her body just kind of rebooting, which is basically what happens when you have a seizure. I don't know if you've ever, I know a couple people who have epilepsy, but I've never talked to them about it. I've never asked about it, what it's like. I've never been around a seizure before. So I'm just going to give you my little tips of because apparently I ended up miraculously doing everything right. And first thing is, don't put anything in their mouth. That is not something you're actually supposed to do. I know that's what most people think of when a seizure is happening, but just make sure they are not biting their tongue, but do not put anything in their mouth, because they could damage their teeth and everything like that. They might bite their tongue, but just make sure they're not gonna bite it off. But that was one thing I was told. I was like, I was trying to get something in her mouth but wasn't able to, and they were like, yeah, don't do that. So coming from the paramedics and the doctor, do not put anything in their mouth. Keep them on their side if it's happening, just so they don't choke on anything, because they lose all control. They start to foam at the mouth and everything. You don't want them to choke on anything, so keep them on their side, and just make sure they're not gonna fall and hurt themselves on anything. So one thing that alarmed me, and I did not know this about seizures, is after a seizure happens, you basically you have memory loss. It's like your brain needs to reboot. I basically watched my wife go from being having the intelligence of a toddler to being her normal self in the span of 2 hours. Because she didn't, when she came to, she couldn't really speak. It was just kind of some pointing and some noises. When the paramedics came in, she had no idea what was going on. I told her that I think she had a seizure, and she was very surprised and all these things. But then 5 minutes later, she's like, wait, where am I? What's going on? And it was very alarming. I worry about things like brain damage because I'm not a doctor. I don't know what's going on. But apparently this is all very normal for a seizure, because basically what's happening is the energies in your body, for her instance in particular, is all the energy, it happened when we went to bed. So her body's at rest, and all of the wavelengths in our body, they all kind of just, the information that's been going through your head throughout the day syncs up, and she just got a jolt, and that's what triggered the seizure. It also comes from she hadn't slept in over a 24-hour period just because she was stressed and couldn't sleep, and again, high stress can cause a seizure. Come to find out, this actually happened to my dad recently, and no one had ever told me about it. So when we were telling them just to give them the heads up, I was told that, oh, this happened to my dad recently, and it was kind of the same set of circumstances: high level of stress and not sleeping very well. On top of he was drinking, so that was another thing. But yeah, I just want to kind of give people a heads up on that kind of stuff, because I was terrified. Like, at one point she stopped moving and I thought she had died, and it was only for a second, but it seemed like eternity, and my brain went through that process of, oh my God, like, is she dead? And then she started moving again, and then that kind of triggered me back into alert mode. But I wanted to share my experience, because anyone can have a seizure for any reason, and you never know when it could happen. And if you're alone, it's not the end of the world. It's not like you're going to die or anything, but preferably if you can tell something's about to go wrong, lay on the ground and make sure you're not going to fall off of anything or fall into anything. It happened to my dad while he was in a car. Luckily, he wasn't driving, but you can imagine the circumstances, because your whole body, just like her body arches, all your muscles tighten, and you end up like even being sore for a couple days, because it's like your whole body just went through an extreme workout. Like, my dad said his legs hurt for like a week, although he does have 2 replaced knees, so But I just wanted to give this little PSA of, hey, if anybody's having a seizure, these are the things you do, and these are the things you don't do, and just what to expect afterwards. Because I had no idea. The paramedics are trying to console me and tell me that this is normal, but I was obviously freaking out. It was a traumatic experience, and I was like neck deep in trying to get the podcast guest scheduled, scripts read, and everything. Like, I was literally set to record like the Monday after, but then this happened on a Saturday night, and I wasn't at work on Monday, so it got in the way of the podcast recording. But me taking care of my wife was a much more important thing, and so I decided to I will take some time off. I will deal with this, and then reconvene and kind of get some more stuff ready during that time. So I've had some time with myself, so I could read a couple scripts for myself, and I'll get into what we're going to be handling in the coming weeks. But I just wanted to get that out of the way. So that's why I've been gone. I haven't been neglecting the podcast. I haven't forgotten it. I just had some stuff to take care of. And on top of that, and you can kind of hear it in the episode that's going to drop on Friday, and you can still kind of hear it in my voice now. But after the seizure happened and all that I was dealing with, like right when we were kind of finishing up there, I got very sick. I had a really bad, fever and cold, and I've been sniffling and crazy, and I try to keep it out of the recording as much as possible. I'm still a little phlegmy, so I might sound a little weird. I'm clearing my throat and things like that, so I apologize. And I apologize because the episode on Friday, I was still even more congested, but I think it sounded okay, so hopefully it's not too bad. But that was another thing that kind of just threw a wrench in the plans. It was like all these things kind of coming at once. But that's over now, and we're getting ready. We're coming back. So I have some plans coming up here in the future. So the next 3 weeks are pretty much mapped out. So I'm going to give you that information now so you know what's going on. So this Friday, we have a guest. My first guest ever on the podcast is coming back, Eric Zisselman, and we are talking about a script called Black Winter, which is a spy movie, which I was very excited to read because I love spy stories. I love spy movies, spy novels, things like that. It's a genre that's one of my favorites, yet one I've interacted with very little. Like, obviously, I love the James Bond movies, which, spy movies, sure, but that's not the way I would necessarily categorize them. But I was interested to read this one, and we had a good time talking about it. So that episode is recorded. It's in the bag. That's going to drop this Friday. Next week, I am going to do a solo episode and talk about the first draft to one of my favorite movies, and that is a video game movie called Mortal Kombat, based on my all-time favorite video game series. So this is the Mortal Kombat movie that came out in '95. It is the first draft of that movie, which is pretty different. I've been reading it. I was reading it by myself, and I was just like, man, this movie is fucking so different the way it translated to screen. Like, I actually have the second draft, and I don't know if I have the third draft. I feel like I have 3 drafts of this movie, so I might actually like check in on this one again and like not do another full episode on it, but kind of do a little catch up if I read the second draft to be like, oh, here's what changed between the 2 drafts, and what eventually went into the final movie. So next week, Mortal Kombat. The week after, we're gonna keep on the video game theme because I have been accumulating some video game scripts, and I've really wanted to cover some of these. So this is one that I actually it's based on one of my favorite game franchises and one that I had wanted to see a movie in, but as I am reading it currently, and maybe I'm glad that this never happened, but that's a little bit of a spoiler for 2 weeks from now, which we will be talking about the script for the video game movie that has not happened, Devil May Cry. One of my favorite game series, the character of Dante, the Capcom series. I love it. The movie script is interesting, so I'm done with the Mortal Kombat one. I'm not yet done with Devil May Cry, but that's going to be the order for the next few weeks. And then this being November, we do have Justice League coming out on the 17th. So I have the Justice League Mortal script from George Miller, the Mad Max director, who was going to direct a Justice League movie. And, there's a lot of stuff out there for this. Like, there was a full cast. They put out Wonder Woman costume pictures not that long ago. Armie Hammer was going to play Batman. I was actually very interested in that movie. But unfortunately, it never happened. But I have the script. So I don't know if there will be a guest for that one or if I will be solo. I would love to get a guest for it. But there's a specific guest I would want, and I don't know if I can make that happen. But Justice League Mortal will be on November 17th, so the day Justice League comes out, we will also have that. So that's kind of a look at what this month is, and I'll be filling in the gaps here and there. I want to thank everybody that was listening to my Shocktober episodes. I had a lot of fun doing it. Unfortunately, I didn't get to finish, which I said from the beginning that, it's really hard to get all of the movies and record all the podcasts, but I had a lot of great feedback on those episodes. People seem to like them, so I'm definitely going to do it next year, and obviously my goal is to do all 31 days. So this year, unfortunately, because of what happened with the seizure and me getting sick, it just wasn't possible. Like, after that whole situation, I just was not in the mood to watch any horror movies, so unfortunately, I didn't make it all the way through the month, but I said in the beginning, it might be a little difficult. I did bank a lot in September going into October, but then it came to the point where I was trying to cram in multiple movies every weekend, and then it just wasn't going to happen once everything went down. So I do want to thank everybody that followed along and listened to those. I had a lot of fun doing it. Can't wait to do it again next year. It's something I attempt every year, and I've never made every single day. It's really hard to watch a movie every day because, things happen, which, and this time it was crazy things happened, but, look out for that next year. I'm looking forward to covering some more horror films, but thank you for everyone who has been keeping up. And, I've been trying to keep updates out on Twitter to let everybody know what's going on. But now this is the full story of what's been happening, and we're getting back into it. So I hope everybody's excited. I know I'm excited. I got to get some more guests lined up. I already have numerous scripts that I'm going to be covering by myself, and, we're going to try to get some people to join in on those. Also, might try to get some other episodes logged in there. Like, I want to do some episodes where like me and some buddies pitch some movies or, things like that. So I'm gonna see what I can get. So be ready for the content that is now coming. But that's going to be it for today's little mini episode, which, is probably a little longer than any of my more recent ones. But I just wanted to give you guys the update, and, we're getting ready. So I hope you're ready for all of the content coming your way. But that's going to be it for today's shelved mini episode. As always, you can follow us on all of our social medias, which it's been a while since I've even said this stuff. So let's see if I can remember it all. I do want to thank there's been someone who's been emailing me about the Spider-Man script, and he actually gave me a correction, which I still need to go fix. But the canon film Spider-Man script that we did, I incorrectly labeled it as 1985. It was actually in 1983, so I do need to go fix that. But he's been talking to me. He's a big fan of that script, so thank you for listening and for talking. I don't know if you're listening on YouTube or on the actual podcast feed. He didn't say, but he actually has his own podcast as well, which I don't have the information in front of me, but maybe I'll leave that somewhere on like one of my YouTube comments for that video. But yeah, so thanks to him for emailing us. And you can email us at shelvedfilmpodcast@gmail.com. You can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Shelved Podcast. So yeah, that's all of our social medias. Be sure to follow us there. And thank you all for listening. And be sure to check back on Friday, where we're going to talk about a little spy movie called Black Winter.